Between Stockholm and Jaipur, an heiress executive and a street artist meet by chance. A letter from a mother, a cross around the neck, and a choice that could cost everything. When storms open doors, love reveals who we are. But at what cost? The Swedish sun embraced the fjord view as Astrid Lindberg typed up the last financial report of the quarter. Her office at Lindberg Investments occupied the top floor of the corporate building, with floor-to-ceiling windows reflecting Stockholm's crystal blue sky. At 32, Astrid had built a reputation as a ruthless and efficient executive. Although her blue-gray eyes rarely matched the professional smile she offered to clients and colleagues. Distracted, her fingers found the small cross pendant she always wore around her neck, a gift from her mother, Elin, who had passed away 2 years ago. Since then, something had changed within her. Board meetings, financial reports, and international calls that once made her feel alive now seemed to only fill the time between sighs. "I think we're done for today, Astrid," said Henrik Lindberg, entering her office without knocking. At 60 years old, her father maintained the upright posture and determined look that had built the Lindberg empire. "The board approved your proposal for Asian expansion. Congratulations." Astrid forced a smile. "Thank you, Dad. You seem tired," Henrik observed, without real concern, just stating a fact. "You should take a vacation before we start the India project." "India?" Astrid looked up from the computer. "We need someone to supervise the initial negotiations in Jaipur. I was thinking of sending Erickson, but maybe." "I'll go," Astrid replied, surprising herself with the quickness of her response. Henrik frowned. "Are you sure? It's not an easy trip. The heat, the pollution, the sanitation issues. I need some time away, Dad. You said it yourself." Something in the firmness of her voice prevented Henrik from arguing further. He nodded briefly and left, leaving behind an almost inaudible "take care." That night, in her elegant apartment overlooking the water, Astrid opened the drawer where she kept memories of Elin. Childhood photographs, birthday cards, and at the bottom, a small wooden box with engraved initials. She had never had the courage to open it after the funeral. Perhaps it was time. Hundreds of kilometers away, under the suffocating heat of Jaipur, Arun Sharma was finishing a chalk portrait on the sidewalk near the Palace of Winds. His fingers, stained with vibrant colors, astonishingly captured the distant gaze of an elderly man in a turban who had posed for a few minutes in exchange for a few rupees. "Incredible," murmured the man seeing himself portrayed, his tired eyes coming to life on the paper. "How do you do it so quickly?" Arun smiled, the fine lines around his eyes revealing his 29 years lived intensely under the sun. "I only draw what already exists, Uncle, the truth you carry." The man paid more than agreed, moved by the result. Arun carefully stored the money in the pocket of his faded shirt. Today they could eat well, he thought, looking at the girls sitting silently under the shade of a nearby tree. "Myra, let's go," he called, putting his materials into his worn-out backpack. The 13-year-old girl gracefully stood up without making eye contact, her movements precise like a little ballerina. Myra didn't speak much, and when she did, it was almost a whisper. The doctors had said she was on the autism spectrum, something Arun understood only as a different way of seeing the world, perhaps even more beautiful than his own. They walked together through the streets full of life and color, dodging tourists and street vendors. Since their father's death 5 years ago, Arun had taken on the responsibility of caring for his sister. Their mother had abandoned them when Myra was still a baby, unable to cope with her daughter's needs. "What will it be today, Myra? Dal and chapati?" he asked, holding his sister's small hand carefully. "With mango at the end?" she asked without looking up, counting her own steps. "If there's money left, yes," he promised, knowing he would save on his own portion to ensure his sister's favorite fruit. In his small one-room apartment on the outskirts of the city, Arun prepared the simple meal while Myra meticulously organized his painting materials, a task that calmed her. On the wall, dozens of colorful drawings, hers mixed with his, created a vibrant tapestry that transformed the cramped space into a small gallery. "Tomorrow we need to wake up early," Arun said, serving the steaming dal. "They say a large group of tourists will be visiting the palace." Myra nodded, not lifting her eyes from the plate. Are you going to paint happy people? Aaron smiled. That was what Myra called the portraits he made of tourists. Happy people, because they smiled for no apparent reason, just for being in a different place. Yes, lots of happy people, and each of them helps us stay here one more day together. That night, like every other, he prayed silently while Myra slept. They weren't formal or long prayers, just thanks for the day they had and a plea for protection for his sister. Aaron's faith was simple, practical, rooted in daily survival. If I paint today, we eat today. But there was also a deep gratitude for the talent he had inherited from his father, for the colors that gave meaning to his world. The plane landed in Delhi on a muggy April morning. Astrid felt the heat envelop her body like a heavy blanket as soon as she stepped onto the runway. After a connection and a few more hours of travel, she finally arrived in Jaipur, the Pink City, as the tour guides called it. Her 5-star hotel was a bubble of luxury amidst the frenetic city. But Astrid was determined not to hide behind air-conditioned cars and sanitized tour itineraries. There was something about her mother's letter, found that night before the trip, that pushed her beyond her comfort zone. I never knew the world beyond the expectations of others, Elin had written. Do not make the same mistake, my daughter. The real meaning lies in places where we do not plan to be. On the second day, declining the guide offered by the hotel, Astrid ventured out alone through the busy streets of Jaipur. The heat was suffocating, the sounds and smells too intense for her senses accustomed to Nordic tranquility. Yet, she felt strangely free, anonymous among the colorful crowd. It was near the imposing Hawa Mahal, the Palace of Winds, that she saw him for the first time. A young man sitting on a small stool, fingers covered in colored chalk, drawing the portrait of an elderly lady who smiled shyly. The speed with which he captured not just the features, but the essence of the woman was captivating. Astrid stopped, hypnotized by the dance of his hands over the paper. When the lady walked away with her portrait, she found the courage to approach. Could you draw me too? She asked in English, uncertain if she would be understood. Aaron looked up, surprised by the voice with a different accent. He saw a blonde woman, hesitant light eyes, clothes too expensive for a common tourist. He smiled, gesturing for her to sit on the stool in front of him. Of course, madam, he replied in fluent English. How would you like to be portrayed? Astrid hesitated, unconsciously touching the cross pendant. Can you paint me as I don't see myself? She ventured with hesitant but firm English. As you don't see yourself, Aaron tilted his head, intrigued. Less perfect, more alive. Something in the vulnerability of those words touched Aaron. He nodded, understanding the unspoken request. He began to draw, his eyes alternating between the paper and her face, capturing not just what he saw, but what he felt. As he worked, Astrid watched the people passing by, the city's movement, feeling part of something bigger than herself for the first time in a long while. 15 minutes later, Aaron turned the paper to show the result. In the portrait, she appeared with her hair blown by the wind, a smile she rarely allowed herself to show, and the small cross shining subtly against her neck. It was her, but a version she barely recognized. Free, joyful, present. It's perfect, she whispered, touching the drawing with her fingertips. How did you see that in me? Aaron shrugged, a shy smile on his lips. An artist doesn't invent, just reveals what's already there. She paid much more than the asking price, but couldn't bring herself to leave. She stayed there, watching him work for another hour, until a small and silent girl appeared by his side. This is Myra, my sister, Aaron introduced, wrapping an arm protectively around the girl's shoulders. Hello, Myra, Astrid smiled, noticing how the girl avoided eye contact. Your brother is an amazing artist. To Aaron's surprise, Myra looked directly at Astrid for a brief second before quietly saying, He paints people as they are inside. In the days following, Astrid returned to the same place. She brought hot chai in disposable cups and sat beside Aaron as he worked. They talked about everything and nothing. Sweden, India, the differences and similarities between their lives. She spoke about Elin, the mother who believed in small daily miracles. He talked about the father who taught him to see beauty where others only saw the mundane. Astrid began to join Aaron and Myra in their routines. She helped the girl with English exercises while Aaron painted. She brought small gifts, colored pencils, a quality sketchbook, a hat to protect Myra from the relentless sun. One afternoon, they visited a small temple together, away from the tourist circuit. The rain caught them by surprise on the way back, forcing them to take shelter under the awning of a little Catholic church. "Do you believe certain doors open by themselves?" Astrid asked, touching the pendant while watching the heavy rain. "I only know how to paint doors. Who opens them?" "Isn't me," he replied, half serious, half shy. The laughter that followed gave way to a comfortable silence. Astrid noticed how Aaron protected his backpack of materials from the moisture. He noticed how her eyes seemed more alive there than in their previous encounters. It was at that moment, with the smell of wet earth and the sound of the rain as witnesses, that both realized something had changed. They didn't talk about it, there was no need. It was there in the small gestures, in the way she adjusted the scarf in his hair, in the way he always saved her a spot in the shade to sit. Back at the hotel, late at night, Astrid looked out the window and wondered what was happening to her. The meetings with Indian executives, which were the purpose of her trip, now seemed like mere obstacles between the moments she spent with Aaron and Myra. She called her father, postponing her return by another 2 weeks, citing complex negotiations as an excuse. Henrik did not question. He trusted his daughter as an executive, but there was a tone of suspicion in his voice when he hung up. The news arrived without warning, like a bolt of lightning in a clear sky. Astrid was helping Myra organize the paints when her phone rang. It was her father. "What do you think you are doing?" Henrik's voice was cold, controlled, yet laden with fury. "One of our local contacts saw you, with a street artist," holding his hand. Astrid felt the blood drain from her face. "Dad, I can explain. There is no explanation for this behavior. You are a Lindbergh, an executive, not a naive tourist falling for the tricks of some local opportunist." "Aaron is not an opportunist," she protested, moving away so Myra wouldn't hear. "He is talented, honest, has been taking care of his sister alone since—" "Spare me the details. I don't care about his life story. In 48 hours, Jorgensen will be there to take over the negotiations. You'll be on the same flight back." It wasn't a request, it was an order. That night in Aaron's small apartment, Astrid recounted the phone call, tears silently streaming down her face. "If I stay, I lose everything there. The job, maybe my family. If you go, you might lose me here," Aaron said, without drama, but with all the truth in his eyes. There was no accusation in his voice, just a painful realization. Sensing the tension in the air, Myra began to sway gently in her corner. Aaron embraced her, whispering reassuring words in her ear. Astrid watched the two, her heart broken by the impossible choice in front of her. Back at the hotel, unable to sleep, she opened her small suitcase of personal belongings. At the bottom, among papers and photographs, she found the yellowed envelope she had kept after reading her mother's letter. Something compelled her to read it again. "My dear Astrid," the letter began in Alin's delicate handwriting. "Perhaps one day you will find yourself at a crossroads similar to the one I faced." Alin revealed that in her youth, she had loved a man, a musician without means or status, but had been pressured by her family to marry Henrik, the suitable match. She did not hate the life she had built, she wrote, but she always wondered what might have happened if she had followed her heart. "I did not live an unhappy life, my daughter. I loved you more than anything. But I carry a doubt that never quieted. If you ever face something like this, do not let fear decide for you. Whatever your choice, let it be made out of love, for yourself, for others, for the life you wish to live." Astrid's tears dampened the paper, already weakened by time. It was as if her mother were speaking directly into her ear, giving her courage where reason failed. As she folded the letter, she noticed that the cross on her pendant seemed lighter, as if it were a silent confirmation. Even so, the next morning she boarded the flight back to Stockholm with Jorgensen. Not out of cowardice, but because she knew she needed to face her father, her world, and herself before any decision. Jaipur was left behind, but the echo of Alin's letter remained, like a call impossible to ignore. Back in Sweden, Astrid confronted Henrik in his office. He received her with a stern expression, already preparing the terms of an agreement. "The board expects your presence at the next meeting. And I spoke with the Bergmans. Their daughter is single, graduated from Oxford. She would be a good match for you to establish yourself. Or, Astrid asked, her voice firm. Henrik raised his eyebrows. Or what? What is the alternative? If I don't return to the board, if I don't marry whom you choose, what happens? Astrid, don't be ridiculous. You have responsibilities, a position to maintain. Answer me, father, what happens if I choose my own path? Henrik's expression hardened. Then you're out of the company, out of the family, out of the will. I will not allow the Lindbergh name to be associated with scandals and impulsive decisions. Astrid nodded slowly. The clarity of that ultimatum, instead of frightening her, brought a strange peace. Finally, the rules of the game were laid bare. In the weeks that followed, she tried to return to her previous routine. She attended meetings, went to elegant dinners, even accepted a date with the suitable match suggested by her father. But something had changed inside her. The company, which once was her pride, now felt like a gilded cage. The sophisticated conversations sounded empty. The luxurious apartment felt cold and impersonal. One night, kneeling by the bedside, Astrid did something she hadn't done since her mother's death. She prayed. Not a formal or elaborate prayer, just a sincere plea. God, if it is your will in this love, guide my steps. The next morning, she sent her resignation letter to the board. Henrik, furious, carried out his threat. He cut off her access to the family accounts and demanded that she vacate the corporate apartment within a week. Meanwhile, in Jaipur, Aaron was facing his own challenges. Myra's health wavered after Astrid's sudden departure. The special school that had finally accepted the girl demanded fees he could barely afford. To make matters worse, the local government implemented new rules, restricting street artists at tourist spots. When a small gallery invited him to exhibit, imposing as a condition that he westernize his themes to please tourists, Aaron refused. Without soul, no, he simply said, preferring the honest struggle to artistic concession. The only light in his life now was Astrid's letters, which arrived weekly. They spoke of her decision, her difficulties, her determination. The last one ended with a promise. I am coming back. Wait for me. But returning proved more difficult than Astrid had imagined. Her visa was denied due to a technicality. Authorities suspected her intentions in abandoning a stable career for an extended stay in India. Without the influence of the Lindbergh Company, she was just another foreigner with a questionable request. It was a Swedish pastor, an old friend of Alin, who offered a possibility. He ran a Christian NGO with educational projects in India, including Jaipur. He made no promises, merely offered a bridge, a letter of recommendation, a contact with local authorities. I don't know if it will work, he said honestly, but I know your mother would have asked me to help. Astrid restarted the process patiently. On the other side of the world, a local teacher who admired Aaron's work with underprivileged children signed as a reference for her volunteer work visa. Small miracles aligning, as Alin always said. 3 months later, Astrid landed in Jaipur again. This time, there was no luxury hotel waiting. Just a backpack with the essentials, Alin's cross around her neck, and a heart full of hope and fear. She went directly to the place where she had first found Aaron, near Hawa Mahal. The place was empty. Her heart skipped a beat. She asked nearby vendors, but no one had precise information about the portrait artist. Following a hunch, she walked to the small church where they had taken shelter from the rain months before. In the courtyard, she found a group of children painting watercolors under an improvised trellis. Among them, guiding with infinite patience, was him. Slowly, the water makes the color breathe, Aaron said to a boy who was trying to rush his painting. As he lifted his eyes, he saw Astrid standing at the entrance of the courtyard. The brush paused in the air, a silence containing entire universes. Then, from behind him, Myra ran and held Astrid's hand as if not a single day had passed. The doors, Astrid began, her voice choked with emotion. This time, someone opened them for us, Aaron replied, discreetly pointing to the sky. It was no coincidence. The NGO had partnered with the local church for art workshops. Aaron was invited to teach after a missionary saw his work with Myra and other neighborhood children. Small miracles connecting like points of light. Astrid asked for forgiveness for leaving. Aaron asked for forgiveness for almost losing hope. They embraced in the center of the courtyard, a simple yet sacred space because of their reunion. 20 years have passed since that moment in the small church courtyard in Jaipur. The place has transformed into a large community studio school, where young people without prospects find in art a way to express their stories, and often a means of livelihood. Astrid and Aaron, now with silver strands in their hair and slower steps, walk through the courtyard observing the students. The small house adjacent to the studio has become their home, simple but full of color and life. Their children, now adults, carry in their features the harmonious blend of their heritage, the light eyes of Sweden, the golden skin of India, and the free spirit their parents taught them to cherish. Some followed the path of the arts, others chose different professions, but all maintain the commitment to the work that their parents started. Grandchildren run through the same courtyard where Myra, now a serene woman who found her voice through the meticulous painting of mandalas, patiently teaches the techniques learned from her brother. Henrik left years ago, but not before sending a last letter to his daughter, brief, yet profound. In it, he acknowledged that Astrid had found what he and Alin never had, the courage to live without concessions to what others expected. He left her a small fund, not a fortune, but enough to expand the Atelier project. The cross pendant that belonged to Alin now rests on the neck of Astrid's eldest granddaughter, reminding her that faith, when sincere, manifests in unexpected ways, sometimes as a saved letter, sometimes as a door opened during a storm. On the main wall of the Atelier, a large painting by Aaron shows Astrid exactly as he saw her on that first day. A woman in search of herself, the cross around her neck, her eyes filled with questions and possibilities. Next to it, Aaron's self-portrait, not looking at the viewer but in her direction, as he always did in life. The message they share with each new student remains simple. The encounters that transform our lives are not accidents, but invitations. Some come like storms, others like whispers. Theirs began with a portrait and turned into the most beautiful work they could create together, a family, a community, a legacy of courage and faith. And when the sun sets over Jaipur, painting the pink city with shades of gold and purple, Astrid and Aaron sit on the small terrace of their home, hands intertwined, silent witnesses to how love, when true, not only withstands time, it transforms everything it touches.